Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced, and you're listening to the podcast Select Star from Data.Lake. And in this week's episode, or not in this episode, I want to talk about the new Dremio releases. So Dremio just released version 25.2, which has some pretty cool new features. And sort of like the big sort of marquee thing is that in private preview, there's a new managed catalog offering. Now, what does this mean? Now, a catalog is something that if you're going to have a lake house, meaning treating your data lake as the sort your data lake and your entire data architecture is sort of one big system because all your data is stored in your data lake storage, you need a way to say, hey, there's table A, there's table B, there's table C on your data lake. And that's what a catalog does. It tracks all these individual data assets. Now, there are different sort of open source catalog offerings like Nessie, Apache Gravitino, Apache Polaris, and others. The problem is oftentimes you have to manage these yourselves. So that means you have to deploy it, manage it, troubleshoot it, then figuring out all the other sort of bits and bobs that go with it. So the nice thing about managed services, for managed catalog services, is that they kind of handle the deployment and updating and maintenance of the catalog software itself. Two, they oftentimes also employ automatic table optimization services. So with data lake tables, it's not a database. So you don't have this unified, vertically integrated system that's just kind of automatically repairing and optimizing things as it goes under the hood. There is no under the hood. There are a bunch of independent pieces that kind of operate independently. So in that case, your tables, they're just files that are on your storage and they don't automatically optimize themselves. So in that case, usually you have to run some sort of process to do that. So that could be you having to run Spark and run certain different procedures to maintain that yourself, or using Dremio and using its optimize and vacuum commands to do that. But that's still something you have to think about how often you want to do it, how you're going to measure when you need to do it, all these kinds of sort of thought processes. So the nice thing about having that done automatically for you is you don't have to think about it. So you don't have to worry about managing the catalog. You don't have to worry about optimizing the tables. These things are just they just kind of work. So basically, truly does make your data lake house feel like a traditionally integrated data warehouse like system. It's kind of like the missing piece to really kind of achieving that data lake house experience. But up till now, generally managed offerings, including Dremio's, were generally cloud only. You could really only use them in the cloud. So this could include Dremio catalogs in Dremio's cloud platform, which was formerly known as Arctic, Tabular, many others. And probably the newest entrance is Snowflake's Open Catalog, which is based on the technology of Apache Polaris, which Dremio is also very involved with. So that's what makes this really special, because there really hasn't been a managed offering for people who want to do things on-prem. Usually you would have to basically resort to using Hive. Okay, and Hive, it can be a little bit tricky to manage, to deploy, to configure. It's just a little bit harder. It doesn't have a lot of the newer features. Now you have a managed offering that not only works with your on-prem data, but can also connect to your cloud data, because the Dremio platform, which would be sort of the central managing point of this catalog, can connect to on-prem and cloud sources. So it really allows you to kind of connect all your data within one catalog. And this is built on top of sort of open source technologies like Nessie and Polaris under the hood. So very, very, very cool stuff. Now, that is not the only new feature. And again, that is private preview. So right now there's a suite of private preview customers who are now testing that out, making sure that it's battle tested and ready for when it goes to public preview and then eventually general availability. Now, if you're interested in being part of a future public preview, or available when it becomes GA, do reach out to the Dremio team, so that way we make sure that we have noted your interest for when that comes a little bit later on. But yeah, that's a thing that's happening now, and you can go get involved, get your names on those lists, make sure that you get that once it becomes and enters public preview. Now, other really cool features that are included in Dremio 25.2 are sort of two big managed catalog offerings. Are Snowflake's Open Catalog, which is essentially a Apache Polaris powered Iceberg catalog, and I don't think I've talked about Apache Polaris too much on this particular podcast, but essentially it's another catalog entry that has two really, really cool features. The ability to, one, have three really cool features. The ability to have multiple catalogs. So instead of having just a catalog, you have a service that manages multiple catalogs. Now, the cool thing is that those catalogs can be in one of two flavors. Internal catalogs, so you can just, say you have a catalog for your marketing department, a catalog for your sales department, however you want to semantically lay that out. But even more interesting is you have this concept of an external catalog where you can connect other catalogs. So that way, if you have other catalogs that have other features you may want or other use cases, you can kind of connect them so that way all your iceberg tables are visible from one place. And all the assets within these catalogs all have a RBAC or role-based access control layer that you can use to then implement access controls on all the objects within the catalog. So pretty cool. And I'll have a lot more to say on Polaris over the next several months. But that's something you can now connect your Snowflake managed open catalog. That's their, again, managed Polaris service. You can now connect that to Dremio. Okay, so now basically if you want to share iceberg tables between Dremio and Snowflake, it's never been easier because now you can use that same catalog. And on that whole catalog play, there's also another player, Databricks, who has a catalog called Unity that they manage. And their managed Unity service can now also be connected to Dremio, specifically to view tables that you have Uniform enabled on. So Uniform is a feature within Delta Lake. So that way when you write to those Delta Lake tables, it'll mirror some Apache Iceberg metadata. So that way tools like Dremio can then read those tables and you can take advantage of all the iceberg-oriented features of Dremio. So while Dremio can read Delta Lake tables, when you use iceberg metadata, Dremio can do things that it couldn't otherwise do, such as like incremental refreshes on your reflections that really help you maximize the value of the platform. So that's all really cool. So now basically you could theoretically connect your tables on Databricks and on Snowflake and make them both available all in the Dremio platform. And again, you can also still connect to Snowflake natively to access all your native Snowflake tables right there in the Dremio platform, along with being able to access all your on-prem sources such as on-prem databases, Hive metastores, HDFS clusters, object stores that you have on-prem. Anything can be connected to Dremio for you to be able to kind of unify all your data analytics in one place and manage controls, documentation, all that from one place. And that footprint's even wider than ever before. A couple other minor updates is Dremio now has dark mode. So while dark mode already existed in the Dremio SQL editor, it didn't exist in the UI as a whole. So now you can actually literally flip the whole UI entirely to dark mode, which is, great timing because Google Calendar also did introduce dark mode this week, and I certainly switched my calendar over to dark mode this week. So that's a brief updates of sort of like the big feature updates. There's always a host of other, like performance improvements and fixes and all sorts of stuff that come together with every release. But there's more to come. I can tell you that the next 6 months of Dremio releases are going to be pretty exciting with a lot of fun twists and turns. So definitely stay tuned. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I'll see you all later. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Tell your friends about the podcast. And again, thank you for listening to Select Star from Data.Lake. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you all later.